Here we go. Good morning, everybody. So last time we we spoke about the bracha achas me'ein sheva, this special additional bracha that we make on Friday night after the Amidah. The Mishnah Berurah informed us that the whole reason for this takana, this whole bracha, was added because simply there were people who came late, and in order to ensure that they would not walk home alone from the Batei Knesios that were, out in the fields, this was the takana that was made, adding this bracha, therefore delaying and allowing those who finished later to catch up. The takana was that the shaliach tzibor would do this, and not, and that wasn't a takana about any individual. The minhag amongst the Ashkenazim became that we say the middle part of it, not the psicha or the chasima of the bracha, which is exactly what you'll find the Ashkenazi communities we do. It's the one on Friday night after Hulu, after the Amida is over, and we did mention the Mishnah Berurah talked about how it's important that the Chaz does not repeat the paragraph at the same time, because of the whole takana was that the shaliach tzibur should say it out loud, and he's just mumbling it quietly along with the kahila when they're saying it. Then that's not really how it was supposed to be done. So in order to follow the takana as it was, Mishnah Berurah insisted that the chazan should wait, let everyone say it out loud, and then repeat the paragraph, which is generally what happens. I don't know. Is this something that's Sephardi communities?
I wasn't here last week.
No, I'm saying, but so on Friday night we have the Magen Avot, right? Do Sephardi communities do this?
I mean, they don't do that.
They don't do this. They don't do the Kehillah doesn't sing it.
No, they just the
Chazan. Just the Chazan. That's what I would think, right? This is because you know why I think that, because the way the Rama writes this is that he's talking about he's talking about a minhag, right? And that's why I would think that this would only be an Ashkenazi practice, because he's describing the Chein no hagin hatzibor, that the tzibor, obviously, if amongst Ashkenazi Jews that he's aware of are doing this. And the Shulchan Aruch here is the one who says the Ein Yachid Omer Ota, right? In Sif Ches. So not surprised that there would be a difference in that halacha. Okay, all right, we are up to Sif Tes. So
what page are we?
it is Reish Siman Reish Tamaches Sif Tes. So Reish Tamaches. What was that? Yeah, Mem Daled on the top corner of the page. So you're gonna keep. Here we go, Mem Daled, and 3 lines from the bottom of the Shulchan Aruch right over here. Okay. So the Sif Tes. Good morning, Simeon. I see you there.
Good morning.
We're in Reish Tamaches Sif Tes. Okay.
Reish Tamaches Sif Tes.
Yeah. So Yom Tov Shechalios b'Shabbos. You have a yontif that falls out on Shabbos. Remember, that was the whole reason for Vayachulu being said every Friday. Don't ever forget it. It's not about any other reason. The reason we say Vayachulu every Friday night is because of the time that Shabbos could fall out on yontif, and then there's no Vayachulu in the Amidah, because the Amidah has changed. That is the reason why we do it. The whole Eidos thing is great, but it's not the real whole reason. Is that we need to say Vayachulu even the weeks that we don't have it in the Shemona Esrei. So that's a yontif that falls out on Friday night. Eino maskir shel Yom Tov v'bracha me'ein sheva. There is no mention of Yom Tov in the bracha me'ein sheva, which is Perish Birkasik, Gel Yom Kohen Shamayim Aretz, etc. Okay, you need your seats here. So why is the Shulchan Aruch need to say this? Because it is a little bit surprising. It's a little surprising because when you're talking about the bracha me'ein sheva, it is a miniature version of the 7 themes of the Amidah that was said beforehand. Okay, and so you know what?
I want to move this.
Why don't you go sit over there? Okay.
Next to you.
Sorry, 1 second, Simeon. Yes, go ahead.
You're saying the Me'ein Sheva is the first paragraph of the usual Friday night Kiddush?
The Me'ain Sheva, no, the bracha starts with Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Elokeinu Avraham Melech Yitzchak Melech Yaakov.
Part of Mariv.
What was that?
That's part of Mariv.
Yes, and then we say, what was that? Okay, Yaakov, is like I forgot there's a little phrase in there before that, but that's the part of Friday night, and then everyone responds. So
Okay.
that's the bracha main sheva. So by the way, it's fine. I'll apologize. Yes, the beginning sounds like the first bracha, but the core of it really is about the middle bracha. Okay, right? It's the Mekadesh HaShabbat, which is the chasima of the bracha in the first place. So you have here no mention of Yom Tov, which is surprising because the bracha in the middle of the Shmoneh Esrei that night of Yom Tov is not Mekadesh HaShabbat, it's Mekadesh Yisrael HaShabbat, Mekadesh HaShabbat Yisrael V'Azmanim, and yet we don't do that in the bracha Mein Shev on a Friday, which falls out on Yom Shabbos falls out on Yom Tov. Why not? So let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah now for a moment. Taf Gimel. He's going to tell us a little bit more why. Eino Maskir. Why not? Why is there no such takana? Hilo tiknua ela b'Shabbos. The takana was established only for Shabbos. V'afilu b'Shabbos eino chova mitzad adin. It's not like you fulfill a mitzvah d'Rabbanan when you do this. It's not a adin kind of halacha by letter of the law. Rather, this whole practice, he says, is rak shetiknua mishum sakana. The whole practice is just because of the danger that was presented. So does it have to say Mekadesh Yisrael Azmanim? No, it doesn't have to. It's not important.
What's sakana?
The sakana, which we mentioned last week, was that they used to have their shuls. You know, they weren't like this kind of a building. You know, they were the room somewhere, and they were out in the fields. They weren't necessarily always in the big cities. They were a little bit more remote. And then they would have to walk back. By the way, I wondered after last week's shir, like I'm sure there may be research on this, and I haven't read the papers, the history about it. Did this involve maybe was out in the fields because this maybe was a place where two towns might gather, you know, or Jews from this town, that town, and it was a more central place, and everyone could walk back to their respective. I don't know, but they were more remote, and therefore walking back presented a danger, and they didn't want anyone to be walking back alone. They wanted to, if you're going to walk back, you're going to walk back in a group. And if you were late to davening and everyone else is done because they finished Shemona Esrei and they said Aleinu and they went home, you know, and by the way, who knows when Aleinu was even instituted, by the way, that's a separate question, then they would go home right away. So the rabbi said, let's make this bracha. The Shliach Tzibur is going to make it. And the guy who came late, he was behind 5 minutes. He's catching up in the meantime while they're doing this. Okay, so the Mishnah Berurah here is saying the whole thing is because of sakana anyway. So we didn't mention Mekadesh HaShabbat Yisrael V'Azmanim. Okay, it's not important. The point was here to help people get home safely. And what the rabbis established is established. Don't add to it. Okay, and that's why there's no mention of the holiday here. Otherwise, it would actually make sense that there should be some mentioning of the holiday. Now, the question that one might wonder is why is there no such bracha on a Chag? Right, Wednesday night he's walking home. This Rosh Hashanah starts on a Wednesday night. Why don't we have such a bracha on Wednesday night? You know, there could be dangers on Wednesday night walking home. You know, so I wonder. I don't know the answer to the question offhand. I wonder if there was less of a concern with the yontif. Was there more incentive to get there on time? Was there be ready? Did they daven later? I'm not sure. Why is it like why was there no fear that people could come late to shul on a yontif night as opposed to a Friday, or was there less danger on a look? I mean, there was a work with that was part of the work week, and I don't know. I'm not sure. Then people are not as
maybe
I don't know.
Maybe the Chafetz Chaim had a car.
Right, maybe he drove to shul on Erev Yontif. I don't know. He could drive on Erev Shabbos.
No, I'm talking during the week. Your question about Wednesday night.
Yeah, but I'm saying when Yontif falls out on Wednesday night, he's not driving back.
Yontif. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Yontif on a Wednesday night. Why is there no such On a regular weeknight, we actually do have this concept. That's Baruch Hashem Le'olam. Right? They had this, but on a yontif, what's funny is on a yontif that falls out on a weeknight, we don't have such a concept. Think about it. When we finish Shmona Esrei, the Chazan immediately begins, and he's just, and it's Aleinu when we're done. And it's like goodbye. And it's funny that there is no such concept. There was no takana established. I guess Mada Tikkun, they made a takana on Shabbos. It falls out a few times a year on a weekday. I don't know. And also it's not such a concern on the second day of Yom Tov. That I'll grant you. Second night, where were you coming from? You weren't coming from work. It wasn't a work day. The preparation for for food, but is not. So that I get why on the second night of Yom Tov it's not a big deal. The first night I would have thought there would be an issue, but it's only a few times a year, so maybe they didn't make such a takana.
Friday night,
Right, it's also a few of our things, but that's Shabbos, so that's the established rule. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Okay, take a look here at Sif Yud. Sif Yud says the following. Now this is a big issue in our community, from what I understand from a couple of people who run the Friday Night Minyan. Ein omrin bracha me'ein sheva bebeis chasanim va'avelim. We don't say the bracha me'ein sheva in the house of a chasa, in the wedding house, which is where they're going to have sheva brachos. So that's like there's a whole wedding party that's together. They don't need to go to shul because they have a minyan in their house, or a beis avel. Funny, the practice today is not to have a minyan in the beis avel on Friday night or Saturday night, but there are many places even today that do, and that includes that includes the Shabbos davening. They'll daven Shabbos mincha there, daven Shabbos Friday night there. Yeah, I'm in the middle of class. Okay, so ask Yair. Okay. So that's interesting. That's an interesting thing that we don't do that, but there are certainly many who still do, and it's certainly it sounds like it was the practice that the Avels didn't get up and leave the house. Well, it was still like now it's like Mincha leads into Shabbos, so they would stay in the Beis Avel. So why not? Deleka Tama, you don't have the reason that people are coming late and therefore they may get hurt because all the wedding party, the mechutanim, they already came for Shabbos. They're not coming late. They made it for Shabbos on time. And on Beis Avel, the family is there. The family this morning is there. Maybe the neighbors are coming over. It's not like they're going out into the fields and they're davening in the house. So there's no reason of people can get hurt. Now, this is interesting because it shows you that when this takana was set up, there were already exceptions built in because usually we would never invoke the reason for a takana as a reason to not do it sometimes. We usually will say, no, that's the law. The law is the law, and even if it doesn't seem to apply in this situation, we still follow the law. But here, that's not the case. So take a look at Chaf Dalet and Chaf Hey, and then I saw Simeon you had a hand, so let me get to you after we read these two comments. The Beis Chasanim here. Why is it important for us today in Scarsdale, where we have 5 minyanim on Friday night that are not in the shul? Perush. When they daven in their house for the minyan, that's what's going on here. All the more so those who are davening on occasionally in their house they make a minyan in their house. Right? I think that's called a breakaway minyan. I'm just kidding. But if they have some, look, if you're having once in a blue moon, you're having a minyan in your house on Friday because you have enough family, you have enough whatever. That's even more. That's the same thing. Then you don't say the bracha me'ein sheva. But let's say that you have a conference. And I remember once I went to the YU. I used to have this conference in the summer. It was called Champions Game. I went. And it was they were done. It was a 4 day conference, something like that. So we were there for a few days. And there was a lot of people, people from around the United States of America, and they were there for a few days in a row, or whatever. You can find your own scenario. V'yesh Sefer Torah etzlam, and then let's assume that there's a Sefer Torah there. Uchmo ba'yeridim, which I think are people who are on traveling, but I'm going to check that in a second. I checked it. I'm now forgetting what it was again. Doma lebeis haKnesses kavua. It's like a beis haKnesses that is well established. It's kavua ve'omrim, and therefore you would say it according to the Mishnah Berurah. If there is a kvius and a Sefer Torah present, then you would say it. If there's no Sefer Torah, even though let's say you were there for some set of days, no. If there's a Sefer Torah and you have this, establishment, this temporary establishment, then you would say it according to this approach. Now, one more Mishnah Berurah, then Simeon, you'll ask your question, and then I'm going to also add in some extra comments from my Mishnah Berurah. Chafei deleka tama uvamakom shenogim laomra ein limchos biyadam. Now, remember, here the Mishnah or the Shulchan Aruch was talking about there's no reason to say it in the base chasarim and the base havel. But for those places that do have that minhag where you say it even in those houses, don't protest. Ein limchos biyadam. Don't don't go nuts over this issue. That's what the Magen Ram quotes in the name of the Radvas. Aval prima gadim mifak pek vazem. Prima gadim is unsure about this. Perhaps maybe you should be upset about it. Maybe you should make us think about it, because here we're talking about maybe making a bracha that was unnecessary. Right? Remember the rabbis established a bracha here. There was a reason for it. Okay, so it's established. But if there is no reason to say it and you're saying a bracha, you shouldn't do it. I believe that all of that. Interesting. 4 out of the 5, I think, minyanim here around town on Friday that are not in the shul. And correct me if those of you who are aware, that 4 out of the 5 don't say it, and happily don't say it, because I think it makes it shorter. Right? The shorter davening. There's a 5th minyan which doesn't say it, but if I understand from the history, there was a machlokas about the whole issue.
Interesting because
Yeah.
our the the minyan, like the Friday night, it's custom not to say it, but if you decide, if you want to say it, it's okay.
Oh, really? That's how it says. I didn't pay attention to the English.
That's our uncle says that
Interesting. I have to look at it.
There is a loophole for that.
It's built in.
I know the minyan that says it.
Oh, which
I usually go.
do you guys actually know? Because I was talking about the Wilmot Woodsman had a machlokas. Dan Katz was giving me Dan Katz, I think it was Pierre, one of them, was giving me the history about it, about this issue. They also have an interesting shita about Shavuos, the first night of Shavuos, the time that they daven. Caused a lot of machlokas. Anyway, but yes, this is an interesting question. So you guys do say it.
Say it, but it's there was a question, somebody questioned it, but they said, well, we've been saying it for the last 10, 20, 15 years.
Is that minyan always in the same house? It's never.
It moves only if the people are away.
Right.
Otherwise, it's the same house.
Right. So there's at least more. There's Sefer Torah. No Sefer Torah. Okay, interesting. So so take a look at Torah of Moshe and a second. But Simeon, I know you wanted to ask something. Go ahead, Simeon.
Rob, I'm wondering if you could back up a little and address the notion of a public demonstration of Avelus on Shabbos. My understanding is that the Avel doesn't even wear non-leather footwear on Shabbos. My understanding is that it's inappropriate to express condolences to the Avel on Shabbos.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. Actually, we're going to get to it in Hilchot Shabbat. There's a way to express condolences without expressing condolences. It's basically you say Shabbos. You say I'm really sorry. Shabbos ti mi hinachem, but I'm not supposed to actually, give you any comfort on Shabbos. It's kind of like when we do the Mishnah Berurah for Cholim, and at the very end, I when I do it, anybody does it. Say Shabbos ti milizok, but Shabbos we don't cry out to God, even though we just cried out to God. So there is a formula for how you kind of are menachem avel. You're right. We don't do it in the regular way. And yes, there are no public mourning practices. Everything that you said would need to happen. The avel would need to change their shoes and would need to make sure that they are wearing not ripped clothing when Shabbos comes in, but otherwise the davening is happening in their house. That's just that it's just more of a for convenience sake because the Avelim, were there. They have a minion that's already there, and they don't feel the need to have to. They're not feeling it, and it's better that they didn't have to until till the beginning of Shabbos. They didn't have to go anywhere. But if they have to just suddenly pick up and start walking now, they'll miss the minion for about Friday night Marav. So they davening at home. And by the way, if you look at the art scroll Shiva Sidurim, they have Shabbos davening in there for Friday night, and I think for Shabbos Mincha. Okay, you can fact check me on that one. I think I'm right about that. But our shul, we don't have that. You saying for our shul? Oh, and the regulars? No, I'm saying that the siddur exists and it has the Friday night davening in it.
Right, but I'm saying,
which you would never do here. Yeah. Oh, the bracha main sheva. You know what? Next time I'm at Beis Havel here, I will open the siddur and I'll check it out. Probably not. There will be no reason for it because it's definitely a temporary minion. No, can you please take care of me?
Yeah, thank you for catching me.
Can you please take care of me?
Thank you for catching me.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Noam. Please don't climb that. Okay. He's got that mischievous look. If you that on his face. Okay. So I wanted to share with you the. Yes, please, Jeffrey. Go ahead.
The rabbinic decree with the very big feet.
Yes.
I thought that if they give a reason and if they do this because of X and then X no longer applies, you don't have to do it, right? It's not like a bill, right? So
yeah. So I would say there are plenty of mitzvahs d'Rabbanan or isurim d'Rabbanan that we still hold by, even though sometimes the reasoning is not so sound. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. That was sort of my question. Like if it does not apply, what would you do? But I guess you sort of answered it a little bit with some of the other tools, right? Meaning some of the right because those are the kids, and those meaning according to this, right? Those are done every week.
Right.
So you wouldn't say it according to what we just read.
That there we go. No, unless it's like a well established, like there's always, Yes.
If they haven't been added,
then yes. Then according to Mishnah Berurah, the answer is yes. But
even though you're not worried about the date, I guess.
Right. Correct. Yes. And to the fact that there is, you'll see, there are machlokas about the details of this. When is it considered established enough minion? When it's not. So I'm going to read you some extra comments here I have from in the back of my edition of Mishnah Berurah. He quotes here an interesting question, which is what happens if a tefillah is done outside? That the Kishiyotzin call it Tzibur Lispel Berachov Ashelir. And I'm not sure why they're davening out in the city, like on the streets. So, but there the Minchas Yitzchak says, yeah, you should say it, even though the actual spot where they're davening is not kavua, but it's the shul minyan. The shul minyan moved outside. It would be like during COVID, right, when we davened outside in the back. And I don't remember, did we skip it? I don't remember to skip it. I think we said it, right? We skipped it? No, we said it. Everyone's like, we should have skipped it. But we said it. That was just our minyan. It wasn't there, even though there's no Torah outside, etc. I also have here that if they daven in the chutzner of the Beis HaKnesset, so they didn't daven in the sanctuary. They're davening in the gallery. But we always daven in the gallery on Friday night. The chutzner Beis HaKnesset, there's no Sefer Torah there, whatever. It's all part of the same established building. So don't think you can get away with which room you're davening in changes this halacha. And he says, oh, by the way, that word, the other word that you read him, remember that word you read him? It means a fair. Like they would go, people, a trade fair. Some people would go, they would set up shop for a few days somewhere, and then they established an ad hoc minyan for a few days. And then it's Friday night, so they're there for over the weekend. And that's, so you read them as like at a fair, if they brought a Sefer Torah with them, and they had a minyan from Wednesday to Tuesday that was going to be there every day, even though it would be dismantled after the fair is over, then you would say the bracha mein sheva according to Mishnah Berurah. And last I just want to point out here that Mokom sheyesh kaviyus gemura lehispal v'lo rak lekama yamim ve'ein sham sefer Torah. If let's say there's a real kaviyus that they always daven there, but there's just no sefer Torah. So think about minyanim in the. Well, here's a bad example though. I was gonna say minyanim in the city, like mincha marv minyanim in the city, that always meet. You can count on them. You know that they will be in a particular location on a particular day at a particular time. But that's a bad example because on Friday night they're probably not meeting because they went home to their families. But let's say you have a minyan that they don't have a sefer Torah though. So the Pri Megadim says Efshar Lomar Sham Birchas Mein Sheva. Then you should perhaps say it, even if there's no sefer Torah there. Afilu Ein Sham sefer Torah.
Where is
You don't have this in front of you. This is the Pri Megadim. Oh, how would you get such a scenario?
What scenario is that? I'm sorry.
That if you have an established minyan that's all the time meeting, there's no Torah. They don't have a sefer Torah. Then you still would say this, the bracha mein sheva, and the host if you did the Torah shia sefer Torah zehu dafka b'makom she'en kaviyus gemura. When do you need a sefer Torah? When there's no kaviyus gemura. It's more of a temporary situation for a week, for a couple weeks, and then you have then you need a sefer Torah to make it more of a chashuv location and stuff. Little shul for a week, for a few days. But if you don't have if it's just for a few days and there's no sefer Torah, then it's not okay. You need both, exactly. Now here's the key tshuva that I think guides a lot of our communities. The Shelach Tshuvas Igros Moshe, so Moshe Feinstein wrote, Shafilu sheyesh kaviyus gemura. Let's say you have a shul. Sorry, not a shul. You have a minyan that always meets. He's followed by bebayis misuyam rakmar of shalel Shabbos. He's heard about this concept before. Apparently, Rav Moshe was well aware of the Friday night minyan, right? Ve'ein sham sefer Torah. There's no need for a sefer Torah. It's only a Friday night minyan. So, by the way, there's only one time a year that they perhaps would ever need it on a Friday night, which is, anyone know? When the fast day of Asar B'Teves falls out on a Friday, and you need to lay in a Shabbos mincha. It's the only time that you would need a sefer Torah, and it happens only once every few years. So he says, what do you do? So Yesh Lomar Bo Birchas Mein Sheva. The Mishnah, the Rav Moshe Feinstein says, say it. You should say it. Why? Because it's a minyan kavua. Even though it's a once a week minyan, it's a minyan kavua. You can count it. But that's only if it's always in the same place. If it's bouncing from the Burger House to the Farber House to the Krause home to the Bishar home, that's not a minyan kavua in the same location. What was that? Yeah, that to me it sounds more kavua in the sense that for 20 years they daven in the same place. With the exception of the week that the family is away. It's a pretty kavua minyan. I don't know. That's So look, you have what to stand on. He brings the Dvar Moshe Shekain Hadin b'Mokom Shu Kavua Rak Latfilas Mincha b'Shabbos. There are some places they daven Shabbos Mincha only every week. Now there you also have a sefer Torah though, because it's Shabbos Mincha. So, anyways, this is probably why if there is ever a Friday night minyan that does it, it's because of this. But like Wilmot Woodsman, I know bounces around. Many times it's at the Genton home, Pat's home. Sometimes they're both not there, and it's at somebody else's home. Those kind of minyanim, when it's bouncing around, even if it's by one most of the time, you shouldn't say it. I believe me, no one will be crying if I tell you to say less, and you end davening 3-4 minutes earlier. Okay. Let's take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Let's go back to Sif Yud Aleph now. V'Shabbos she'achar Yom Tov omrim bracha mein sheva. Now, he says here, even on the Shabbos that follows the conclusion of a Yom Tov, like we will have this here 3 times in the fall. 2 days of Yom Tov ends, and we roll right into Shabbos. So we still said the bracha mein sheva. You would say, why? Well, what's the havamina here? Why would I thought I shouldn't say it? That's right. I'm not running from home. I was Yom Tov. I had more leisure. I could walk to shul like that. Not a problem. No one's going to be late. There'll be no latecomers. Even so, we still say it because the takana was established for Shabbos. And the same way that we say Vayachulu every Shabbos, even though we don't need to, there's no reason to say Vayachulu. And why do we say Vayachulu? It's because the one time a year that we're going to have to say it on Friday night when we didn't say it in the Amidah. So same thing. The takana was set up that every Friday night we say it no matter what the circumstances are. Okay. Yud Beis. Continuing on to the next step here. Shulchan Aruch writes, turn the page. Litaber b'shah she'omrim vayachulu, below b'shah she'omrim shliach tzibur bracha mein sheva. You know, in my 9 years, maybe my 10th year at the end of Rosh Hashanah, I moved here with a 3-month-old boy. He was 3 months old when we moved. He's now nine years old. Okay, only 9.5 in November. I've been here a long time, and I've never in this year. I've been doing this year pretty much since I moved here. We started with the topic of Birchas Hamazon back in Kuf. I'm trying to remember. In the Kuf, in the hundreds in this. No, it's really important that we stay quiet. So, never have I talked about the topic of talking during davening. Okay, it has not come up in 9 years that I've ever discussed talking during davening. So, streaks are meant to be broken, though. So, you are not to talk at the time that they say vayachulu, and not at the time when the shliach tzibur, again, because for the Shulchan Aruch there was no such thing as the kehila responding. That the kehila should not talk when the shliach tzibur is saying the bracha mein sheva. They'll say this makes no sense though, because actually, of all the times when you're not allowed to talk, this is probably not on the list. And the reason is, no, I need you to remain quiet and whisper to the people, okay? Why? Because here, this is not being yotze. When it's shliach tzibur saying the repetition of the Amida, there's better reason not to talk during the repetition of the shachris or musaf or whatever. Then you should not talk because you're part of the tzibur. This is a tefillah of the tzibur, right? So that makes more sense. This was established so that the guy who came late because he couldn't get his life together, right? Because he's got 4 kids who make him nuts leading into Shabbos, and he shows up late to shul. That guy, I had to wait for him, so I should be able to talk. And yet here he says, Dafka, I can't talk during this time of the davening. And yes, go ahead, Simeon.
It's interesting that the halachas refers to the non-talking during chazorah with the phrase shomeya ka'oneh.
Right? That you listening, right? That you
By
hear,
listening.
it's like answering.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So take a look where this comes from. You can't make this stuff up. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. Okay? Okay? And I make sure I got this word correct. So I translate this incredible story with 100% precision. Okay? Okay, so the word, okay, so here, I want to make sure I'm translating the Jastro correctly. I'm just pulling up the Jastro. Morik, hold on. Thank you for your patience for this. I really want to make sure I get it right. Okay, Morik. Okay, saffron. What's saffron? It's like a kind of it's a spice, right? Okay. Okay, hold on. Here, I believe also. Okay, hold on. Oh boy. Okay. All right. I believe that this word is, let's read it. I can't find the translation, but I believe it's what it means. Okay. Chafal. Batur b'shem Sefer Chasidim. This halacha comes, it's mentioned in the Torah name of the Sefer Chasidim. Remember, I've told you the Sefer Chasidim before. That's the place where you learn the halacha that you can't marry someone who's got your mother's name. Okay, same place. Okay? There's a story in the Sefer Chasidim that there's a ma'aseh. There's a ma'aseh about a chassid. One chassid, shira lechassid acher b'moso perish b'chalom. He saw another chassid after the chassid had died in his dream. Okay, we're talking here about Fiddler on the Roof. Like he sees in a dream Okay. Upana of Marikos, and his face is like all green or something like that. It's like his face is all, and he looks at him. Amarlo, lama panecha Marikos. How did your face look like? Why does your face look like this? And the guy in the dream says, Amarlo, bipnei shehayisi medaber vayechulu b'shosha yatzibor omimu v'mogen avos v'yiskado ad kan l'shona. And the chassid said, the dead guy is telling him in the dream that, you know why I look like this? Because I talked during Vayachulu and Magen Avos and in Kaddish. And that's why I look like this. And it's fascinating because, first of all, halavai that the worst thing we ever did in our life was talk during Magen Avos. It can't always look like this because he looks like this because of that. I don't know. Anyway, so the Ma'aseh in the Sefer Chassidim. Look, I'm not one to tell you should talk during davening. In fact, we as a shul need to get better at this, at not talking during davening. It's something we try to teach that I actually am very passionate about trying. One of the things in Westchester Day School, in scope and sequencing a lot of the topics, and in scope and sequencing tefillah is actually teaching them why we're not allowed to talk during davening. Just saying, shh, right? It's not going to be helpful because at the end of the day, it doesn't explain to them why the talking during davening is not is a bigger problem than just you getting in the way of what we're doing. It's a bigger deal because you're interrupting your own bracha. If you're in the middle of Birchos Kriyashma, you have to have a retzifus. You have to have a continuation, and you're actually breaking that retzifus. Yeah, if you're in the middle of the Amida, you can't start talking in the middle of Amida because every bracha relies on the other one, and you're also in the middle of a conversation with Kadosh Baruch Hu. Here, you don't have any of those factors. So, from a halachic perspective, if you needed to talk, there is room here to talk. But such is the story. So keep it in mind. Next week, if you chuckle to yourself during Magen Avos, if you see me, maybe I'm trying to usually recruit a kid for grape juice at that time. So I usually am talking. So you want to come drink some grape juice? But at least I'm speaking about the Indian. So I'm not really. It's not such an interruption. Anyways, that's where it comes from. Also, I think that's why some people are very makbid. It's good not to talk during Kaddish also. And maybe there's a peda not to talk during Kaddish that comes from the story of the Sefer Hasidim. Okay, take a look now at Yud Gimel. At Yud Gimel here. We're flying today. Im hispalel shalchol velo hiskir shel Shabbos o shelo hispalel klal. So let's assume it's Friday night, and you don't, and you say the weekday Shemon Esrei, start to end. No one, you didn't catch it. You didn't catch it yourself. By the way, maybe you're by yourself. Oh no, that's not going to work here. Let's say you're at the Sibor and you daven and you say that you miss it. Or guys, Viva, no, okay. Oh, you didn't daven at all. You didn't daven. Whatever it was, you didn't daven. I don't know. V'shama mishliach tzibur bracha me'ein sheva me'rosh v'ad sof yatsa. And if you then listen to the Shliach Tzibur's bracha me'ein sheva from start to finish, you are yotze. You actually have fulfilled your obligation of the Amida of Friday night, even though you didn't say the Amida. This is a fascinating halacha because on the surface, you got to whisper, okay, kid? On the surface, maybe you got the middle bracha in. But the first three and the last three, there's no theme of those. The first bracha there is because you have Elokei, Ram, Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, but the rest you don't have. You don't have. Actually, you do have a little bit actually. Because I take that back. Magen Avos, that's the first bracha. I don't know. I didn't notice this before. Magen Avos midro Machaye Meisim b'Mamaro Hakel Hakadosh Shein Kamuhu Amaniach Lama B'Mamaro. Do you have the last three? I'm not sure if you have the last three though. I don't know. Not sure. But anyways, maybe you do actually. Maybe you have the theme of the last three because you have the thanking God. That's why it's called Bracha Mein Sheva. That's probably why. It's probably because all 7 themes are there. So, anyways, apparently if you do this, it's not the ideal. Yotza is like a b'di'evet, after the fact. After the fact, good. So let's say a person makes a mistake. This is more realistic. You forget to say it's a Shabbos Chol Hamoed Sukkot or Pesach. The Shmona Esrei, therefore, is the Shabbos Shmona Esrei. You forget to say Yalev Yavo because you're so accustomed to Friday davening. You totally miss it. And now you listen to the Abracha Mein Sheva. According to that, you're Yotze. The only problem I have with that is following. I think about that. That makes no sense because the whole you need the theme of Yalev Yavo. So that wouldn't even work. I don't know. Maybe you missed. I would say you missed Rosh Chodesh, but that doesn't help you because you missed Rosh Chodesh on Friday night. You never have to repeat it on a night time. You don't have to repeat it. So whatever, for some reason you missed it or you said the wrong thing, you don't have to repeat it. Let's go look at the Mishnah Berurah. On any night, any night.
Needed for a Yom Tov.
For a Yom Tov.
Right. Say, Yalev Yavo.
You do because there the whole exception of Rosh Chodesh is that in the days of yore, Rosh Chodesh was established in the morning because the court wouldn't open until the morning. So therefore, they never historically could have ever acknowledged Rosh Chodesh at night. Therefore, if we don't say it, guys, if we don't say it, it's not the big deal. It's the biggest deal. We don't have to repeat it. Ideal to do it, but you don't need to because the establishment of Rosh Chodesh historically never happened on a Friday night. But a holiday starts on Friday on a night, so you have to get it right. Take a look at the mission. Yeah.
Rav, does not Chazoras Hashatz have the equivalent of straightening out any inadvertent omissions that you had made and not require a repetition?
For which? For which case?
Let's take a standard Shmona Esrei for a moment.
Oh, with Chazaras Hashatz on a regular Sunday morning. Look, yeah, I mean, technically, yes. If a person listens to the Amida from start to finish, that Amen to all the brachos, had Kavanah, the Chazan, Kavanah, they'll motzi them. The answer is yes. I mean, and then, yes.
Then according to the Mechaber, Me'ein Sheva has the equivalent of Chazoras Hashatz for Shmona Esrei.
Yes, that is correct. I'm not going to argue with that. You're correct. Yeah, that's why you're Yotze here. Take a look now at the Mishnah Berurah, what he says about this whole Indian. So because Arvis is a Tfilas Rishus, it's you go back to the Talmud, it's Rishus means it's optional. You can do it if you'd like. We treat it like it's a chova because the Jewish people have taken it on as such, but at its core, it's really Rishus. That's why there's no repetition in the first place by Mariv. And so that's why we're makil here. I make a mistake, I take my 3 steps back. I totally made a mistake. You can, after the fact, rely on this. You take your 3 steps back. I don't have to be more late to my Friday night table. Just listen carefully to the Shliach Tzibur. Yotza Chavches Ulechatchila Yesh Lizar Lomar Im HaShliach Tzibur Mila B'Mila Min Tchilas HaBracha Ad Sof Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh HaShavas. He says, ideal if you could say the Bracha Mein Sheva word for word with the Shliach Tzibur. You say it too. Say it with him. And from the beginning until the end. But if the Chazan has already said it, and I took my 3 steps back, and the Chazan is already in the middle of his thing, then I can't be Yotze with it, and therefore I need to go back and say my own Shemon Esrei, my own Friday night Shemon Esrei. And the individual is not allowed to ever use Birchas Bein Sheva. Lo Yomar B'Yochid Birchas Bein Sheva. So I'm diving by myself on Friday night. I'm like, you know what? Tonight, I'd like to get to the table a little faster. So you know what? I remember once I learned that this could be a substitute. No. That doesn't work. It's only the Shliach Tzibur listening to it, or you're saying it Mila B'Mila. When you say it Mila B'Mila, you're almost as if you're acting like the Chazan. It's this only works in the context of the Tzibur. If you're at home by yourself davening as a Yachid, there's no such world where you can use this as a substitute to make davening quicker on Friday night for yourself.
You didn't say, listen to it.
If from the Shliach Tzibur.
Right.
Yes, correct. And he says here, Gam Nachon Adavar, and also, by the way, it's correct. Shim Nizkar Kodem Shisham Me'ashlich Tzibur HaBracha Nizkalel Shalo Yismoch Al Zeh. Rak Yispal Od Hapam Tfilas Sheva Kastay there. Yesh Cholkin Al Ikar Hadin Hazeh. He says here, this whole thing, as I said, that's why you have to read the language carefully. Yotza is an after the fact kind of halacha. Yotza is like, okay, I did this now. Okay, I'm good. Check. It's not the ideal. If you catch your mistake, whatever mistake it was, after you take your 3 steps back on Friday night, and he says here that before the Shliach Tzibur starts, you should really start yourself again from the beginning of the Amidah. Because why? Because there's a machlokas about this. There are Rishonim that the Torah mentions who don't like this practice to rely on the Chazan's repetition in this particular situation, and therefore, since there's a machlokas, better if you can to actually involve yourself in your own Amidah, which is what you would do if you were by yourself anyways. This whole thing is in the context of the shul. I know Simeon's going to attack me right now for. Wait a minute. Now you're saying extra Shem Hashem when you don't need to, right?
Right.
When someone is your Talmud for enough years, you know exactly what he's going to say. So the answer to Simeon's question is that the whole notion that it works, Simeon, to listen to the Chazan is questionable. And given that it is questionable, and it has not happened already yet, if it already happened, and I listened, and I said Amen, so now we can make the case that I shouldn't go back, because at least there's a good chance that this worked. But before the Chazan opens his mouth to say anything, it's quiet in the room. Let's say I made a mistake. I forgot, here's a more realistic example. I forgot Mashiv HaRuach. And it was a time of the year when I have to say Mashiv HaRuach, and I forgot Mashiv HaRuach. And I catch my mistake after I take 3 steps back, which means my Shemona Esrei was garnished. But the Chazan is still davening, or maybe they're waiting for the rabbi to finish. He says at that point, you still have an X, over your box in the Shamayim about did he daven Marav on Friday night? And since the repetition never happened yet, I have no reason not to take care of myself. Take care of it yourself, right? For the same reason that I said the Amidah in the first place by myself. Because why can't I just rely on the bracha from the outset? The answer is that the personal tefillah cannot be replaced. You can be yotzei with something else, but that notion of you davening yourself is irreplaceable. And perhaps particularly here, before the Shliach Tzibur has even given you an opportunity to get it out a different way, you still have that obligation, and you need to go ahead and take care of your obligation. Yes, Simeon.
Well, setting aside the Me'ain Sheva, I could make the argument that Chazaras Hashatz should not be recited at all. And not only that, but Chazaras Hashatz is a Takanas D'Rabbanan, like even on top of the Tefillah, it's totally unnecessary if it's functionless, if it doesn't do anything.
Right.
Why are we doing it? We're saying Shem Hashem Lashav for an ineffective, no reason.
I hear you. But if the rabbis establish something like the bracha Me'ain Sheva, then it no longer becomes the bracha levatala. Or Baruch Hashem le'olam at Marav on a weekday, which Ashkenazim say. I don't say it. I happen not to say it, but that's whatever. My father didn't say it. My Rebbe didn't say it because it's it's a hefsek between the smichas gula tefillah. So I don't say it. But many do. Our shul, our practice. By the way, if I'm ever shliach tzibur, I say it because that's the practice of our community. So I say Baruch Hashem le'olam. So when I'm using Hashem's name, it should be in vain. It's no longer necessary. Once the rabbis make a takana, number one is that becomes no longer a bracha levatala. By definition, the rabbis have that power to institute a bracha, and therefore it's no longer a bracha levatala, no matter what the circumstances are. That's number one. And number two, in the case of the repetition, you also have the Rav Soloveitchik was fond of talking about that the Chazaras Hashatz was called the Tfilas Hatzibur. That's while you and me, Simeon, we all have our individual needs. As a community, we also have needs as a cohesive group, and therefore the tefillah of the Chazan is a tfilas Hatzibur, which is why Rav Soloveitchik was apparently known for standing still the entirety of the Chazaras Hashatz as if he was saying his private Amidah. He would stay still because he said this tefillah is on behalf of all of us. And therefore, he also, by the way, would not say, I'm not mistaken, I don't want to quote this one for sure in his name, but many are careful not to say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo during the Amidah. Why?
Yeah.
Because Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo means this, I'm just listening to your bracha, and I'm interrupting. When I'm saying Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, it's not my bracha. I actually am, funny, in school I say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo for the kids, because that's what they say during the dominion for that. So I don't want to start messing with them, but I don't say it. It's quiet when why am I not saying? Why am I not saying? So I try to be consistent with the other, educators and rabbanim in the school. But when I'm privately here, I only say Amen after the bracha. I don't say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, generally speaking. And it's something you'll hear on Rosh Hashanah. The rabbis are getting up and say, don't say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo because you're Yosei with this bracha of the Tkiyah Shofar. So I would actually argue here that there is another purpose of the repetition, not just simply the people who couldn't say the Amidah, they didn't know it, but there is it has this aspect of communal prayer. Sorry, I was on my soapbox there. Jeffrey. Yeah.
So according to the people who would say that is okay, meaning that can be Yosef.
Yes.
Let's say you are and you're doing and you have to say 2 shmones.
Yeah, and I was thinking this question. Go ahead.
Okay, say shmones, right?
And then listen to the bracha Mein Sheva.
Shmones as your second one.
That's a fascinating question. I don't.
I would think yes, because
But I can explain, and I think according to Allah, you have to say.
Meaning,
I know, but it says here,
it's
that if you don't say it and you listen to every word and you say, that you.
Meaning, if you miss mincha on a Friday afternoon, you stay 2 shmon after a Friday night. So you're suggesting say the regular Friday night mincha. Sorry, the regular Friday night mariv, and then use the bracha Mein Sheva as the tashlumin. It's a clever question. You're right. It's b'diavad, but let's say that after the fact, Jeffrey, says, I said Amen. I listened to it. It's a yosei. I would say the answer is yes. If that works for this, it should work. Let's see. Let me hear if the Aruch HaShulchan mentioned something about such a case. Aruch HaShulchan says the following. Let's see if he talks about it. If Mitzvah Shachol v'lo Hizkir Shel Shabbos, Pasuk Rabbeinu Rabbis Yosef is the Yudal, is the Gimel. The Imsham Yashatz Berachas Mensham Rosh Hatzov Yatsa Tov Tov Oma Im Hashatz. But Tam Shemikilina Bazad the Bishon the Tfilas Arvis Rishus. But Tur Hikshal Al Din Ze Ein Sham ve'emes Hare Kama Pa'amim Gizbar Yatzleinu Habe Kechova. We call Malcolm Kol HaGedolim Yiskimu LaZeladina. So many Gedolim accept this halacha. Amdam Zeu Vaday Im Lo Shama Me'ashatz Ein Lo Omra B'Fnei Asma B'Yechidus. Shlo Niskar El Shatz B'Tzibur. Right. Don't say this is the Yachid, as I said before. This doesn't work. It's only a Shatz can say this. The Imamar Olelo. But if you do say it as an individual, he says here after the fact that could work. Wow, what a. Okay, but the Mishnah Berurah says not to do that. But he says that the Eli Rabbah thinks that doesn't work. But he doesn't talk about your. He doesn't talk about your case. He talks about Shabbos Shechal Bo Yom Tov Yispal Shel Yom Tov V'lo Yizkir Shel Shabbos. That you can rely on the bracha Mein Sheva. After that, he didn't say the paragraphs, the parts of the bracket, of Shabbos. It was Yom Tov Friday night. You can listen to the bracha Mein Sheva as a backup, and that's an interesting helpful tool, something in your toolkit. I just want to read one more thing here, and one more halacha, and then I'm done for today. This is an important one because it happens every few years, and people and now our mortgage turns away every Pesach, and I'm the rabbi here in the shul on Pesach. People always go, "What are you doing? What?" So take a look at this halacha, the Be'er halacha. You have to go back one page to Mem Daled. Yom Tov Shechalios V'chulei. Sorry, this is a very important halacha, so that no one ever criticizes me again. I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is what I know. It's Friday night, first night of Pesach. Ready? Because the second night of Pesach can never fall out on a Friday night. Without getting into the calendar. First night is Friday night. Yom Tov Shechalios V'chulei. Kai al kol Yom Tov. Right? This idea that every Yom Tov you always said the bracha Mein Sheva. Livad, there's one exception aside from Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. Shechalios the Shabbos Ein Omer Moso. Except for when the first night of Pesach we don't say the bracha Mein Sheva. Delo Niskan Ela Mishum Mazikin. We only establish this because people could get hurt on Friday. They're walking home, they're late. But the first night of Pesach is a Leil Shimurim. God promises that we are guarded on the first night of Pesach. And therefore, because it is considered a Leil Shimurim, you don't say is the bracha Mein Sheva. You say Vayachulu. Vayachulu you should say. You dafka should say because you didn't say the Vayachulu in the Amidah. But you don't say the bracha Mein Sheva. And people were like, what are you doing? I said, I know what I'm talking about. So the Be'er halacha. I knew this Be'er halacha before. So this is the Be'er halacha where he mentions this idea that since it's a Leil Shimurim, the whole takana doesn't apply from the get-go because Pesach night is a night when the Jewish people have shmirah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that does not mean that you should go out in the middle of the street
You say it or you don't say
and
it?
you should, car, go ahead, try to hit me. Like, that's not a good idea. But the idea is that Hashem will protect you on your walk home even if you came late to shul. Yeah.
So you see that or you're not saying?
No, we don't. And in our shul, we do not say it. In the art scroll,
Means Hashem is gonna protect
it's a night where you're protected. The whole takana was that that people who come late shouldn't walk home by themselves because they might get hurt. Here we're not worried about it anymore.
Thank
The
you.
machzor, the Pesach machzor, it mentions this halacha. So on Friday night, right? They don't have it. Correct. And the Pesach machzor, the art scroll puts out, does not have the bracha Mein Sheva for the first night. If it happens to fall out on the back end of Pesach, on the last night of Pesach, because if the first night falls out on Shabbos, you can also have the last night, or by the way, any of the nights, the Chol Hamoed can fall out on Shabbos. You do say it. And if that's the first night of Pesach, you do not say bracha Mein Sheva. Okay. And all the house don't know that, often because they don't say it in the first place. But I don't know, does that mean, by the way, Tommy, on the first night of Pesach, has that ever come up? Oh, you're in the main shul, right? Okay. Okay. You'll raise up. Klinger told me you're not allowed to.